Hi all, Games Khan here, and welcome to my new guide series which will cover all the assassins, starting with the Vindicare assassin. But first, a little general overview of all the available assassin clades. Bear in mind that all these guides are based on legendary difficulty. The new Execution Force update has released 4 agents of the Officio Assassinorum, and they are an absolute blast to play. These gimp suit wearing BDSM murder machines bring a whole new playstyle to Chaos Gate and make you wonder the hell was going on in the 80s. They are expert at taking out humanoid organic targets, that is your Plague Marines, your Terminators, and Blight Lords, and etc, etc. And they have some amazing synergies with certain Grey Knights, but they do have a lot of limitations. For one, they cannot benefit from any of the Knight's abilities. So no Honor the Chapter, Warp Speed, or even stratagems, the biggest being the Librarian Teleport and Gates of Infinity. If you've been playing this game for an extended amount of time, you know how important mobility is in combat. Being unable to teleport certain team members is one of the major reasons why the Dreadnought doesn't work so well. But worry not! Unlike the Dreadnought, the assassin skills and equipment are so powerful that they easily compensate for their lack of mobility. Another major limitation is that none of the assassins can receive bonus action points when a knight executes an enemy. However, executions by the assassins themselves rewards action points to both the assassin and all the knights. Unfortunately, only 2 assassins can perform executions, the Calidus and the Eversor. Also, executions by assassins only reward the executing assassin. So if you have both the Eversor and Calidus in the same team, and the Eversor executes a target, only the Eversor and any other Grey Knights in the team will receive the action points, and the Calidus will receive nothing. Now that the general overview is out of the way, let's go to the main reason why y'all are here. The Vindicare Assassin! The sickest looking sniper in all of 40k, the Vindicare specializes in crippling high value targets via part destruction from extreme ranges. And I do mean extreme. With the purchase of a single gun and a range upgrade, the Vindicare can achieve 20 square range, which is absolutely bananas. The Vindicare uses a cooldown system instead of willpower for abilities, similar to Lunete, but the Vindicare can reduce all its cooldowns by 1 turn for every kill it makes. It is also one of the only 2 assassins with an instant kill ability, meaning you can click on any target with an organic classification on it and just delete it. So say bye-bye to all those annoying Blight Lords and Terminators. Moving on to their abilities, the Vindicare starts off with Crippling Shot, Faultless Aim, and Instrument of Justice. Faultless Aim allows Vindicare to ignore distance and partial cover penalties to range attack, meaning he does full damage to a target as long as he has line of sight. The Instrument of Justice is, as I described previously, the passive that allows him to reduce cooldown of abilities whenever he scores a kill. Crippling Shot is the Vindicare's main ability and one you will be using the most. It's basically an astral aim on a 3-turn cooldown, but if you score at least 2 kills a round, you can get it back every other turn. Unlike the Calidus assassin, the Vindicare gets his instant kill ability, Deadshot, at level 2. Considering he has access to a massive amount of range from very early on in the game, getting an ability that automatically deletes a target seems really busted, until you realize it's on a 15-turn cooldown. I like to call this the gimmick ability because there is no way you're getting more than 1 use out of these things per mission. At max level, the ability goes down to 9 turns, but I found myself still struggling to get 2 or more activations out of it. Level 3 and 5 are where my favorite 2 abilities are unlocked. At level 3, he gets a passive Reposition, which gives him AP just for moving around, which is hilarious. In level 5, he gets Spy Mask, which has amazing synergy with the Purgator and the Interceptor. It debuffs the target with 50% crit vulnerability, which goes up to 75%. Due to the crazy RNG of this game, there is no guarantee that you will get good crit gear even up to day 300. This early access to crits come in real handy, especially in the Cadex fight on the craft roll mission. The Vindicator also has access to decent amount of crit chance, but almost no crit damage. It can bleed targets on crit, but I found on legendary difficulty, the bleed is inconsequential, unless one of the part destruction options is +4 bleed. So again, that means mostly Plague Marines or any other organic units are supposed to be the Vindicator's main targets. Almost all assassins have an offensive way of generating bonus AP, and the Vindicator assassin does it via his pistol. Any kills with the pistol grants you a chance to gain bonus AP, which unfortunately has very abysmal damage. But unlimited ammo, so no reloading, so that's a bonus. Reloading is the main reason why range combat is not as effective as melee combat in this game, so having a gun that doesn't require reloading is really good. To the point where I think the pistol is going to be the main weapon you use instead of his iconic sniper rifle. And finally, his armor provides him with the ability called Stealth. All assassins' armor gives them this passive ability that allows them to ignore all auto actions from the enemy. This includes attacks of opportunity, meaning assassins can simply walk out of melee combat and walk past Overwatch zones without triggering them. Vindicator is the only assassin whose armor requires that this trait be activated. But unlike other assassins, it also makes a Vindicator untargetable by range attacks for 1 turn. At tier 3, you get an armor piece that increases this to 2 turns. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So how do you play this sexy sniper? The Vindicator assassin has a lot of strengths, but also a lot of weaknesses. His playstyle seems to be to finish off as many targets as quickly as possible so that he can trigger his cooldown reduction and quickly cycle through his skills. His job largely revolves around taking out organic targets, so that's your cultists and your Chaos Space Marines. All assassins are designed to do this, but the Vindicator seems especially shoehorned into this role. The biggest issue is that his iconic sniper rifle seems to be the weakest part of his kit. Like I said before, the Vindicator assassin has access to a lot of crit chance, but very little crit damage. All his crit damage is on his pistols, which have a very low base damage, and his highest damaging rifle only reaches 7 damage. 7 damage is great for normal difficulty, but on legendary it forces you to use 3 shots to kill a basic Plague Marine. What's worse is that most rifles in his kit only have 2-round magazines, so in order to do 15 damage to a Plague Marine on legendary difficulty, he will need to use 2 whole turns. And this is a tier 3 weapon. Unlocking tier 3 equipment for assassins costs 10 requisition, and the rifle itself costs another 5. For comparison, my game-breaking Rambo Interceptor build costs around 15 requisition to turn him into a 1-turn, entire squad-slaying, boss-butchering, autopilot victory-achieving, bane of everything Nurgle monstrosity. Another issue with the 2-round magazine is that the Vindicator gets absolutely wrecked in the Technophage missions. Technophage missions have a very regularly occurring warp surge, which reduces max ammo by 1. This locks you out of using the Vindicator's defining ability, Deadshot, which needs 2 rounds. So when using the sniper rifle, the Vindicator has to rely on bleeds caused by crits to finish off targets. Again, why I believe he's being pigeonholed into this role of the Organic Slayer is because a lot of high health organic targets have a +4 bleed destruction option. However, relying on bleed really sucks for him, because kills from bleed do not trigger Instrument of Justice and therefore do not reward him the extra cooldown reduction, which is critical to his playstyle. This forces you to rely on his pistols for both finishing off targets for cooldown reduction and for generating AP. Feels really weird playing a sniper as a pistol-wielding gunslinger fighting in close quarters, but with his stealth ability he tends to come out of it usually unscathed. And the pistols are great because they have unlimited ammo and they benefit from faultless aim. However, you don't get a lot of good options. Majority of the pistols available to you have very low damage for legendary difficulty. So low that any extra bonus effects that they might apply are completely negated. The only two viable options are Equity and Vard's Law. Equity on crit can reach 8 damage, which is a threshold for one-shotting cultists, and so makes it easier to trigger the Instrument of Justice and the AP refund. It can also do decent damage to non-organic targets, but because the Vindicare can never truly reach 100% crit chance, it's not really reliable. I'd recommend fully leaning into his anti-organic role with Vard's Law. This gun can do 9 damage to organic targets, so it's great for killing both cultists and Plague Marines. With this pistol, he really starts abusing the AP refund and cooldown reduction, allowing you to get multiple activations of Deadshot. Heck, it will essentially remove the cooldown on Crippling Shot and make sure you have Spy Mask ready for every engagement. As for the Exorcist rifle, I recommend going with the Shadow Mark and then running the Vindicare in a support fire build. The Shadow Mark can achieve 20 range, so that makes it exceptional at both triggering and getting triggered for support fire actions. Get support fire on both your Purgator and Vindicare and cackle like a maniac as you get 4 free shots from 17 plus range. These two can harass from such a massive range that the enemy has to spend majority of their action points in closing the distance instead of attacking, giving you essentially a free turn to shoot them again. The 20 range also applies to Crippling Shot and Deadshot, allowing you to take out critical targets from a very safe distance. It does sometimes bug out and defaults to the pistol range, and I have no idea what causes this. The Vindicare also needs a lot of focus, and since there are no guarantees that you will get the Focus War gear anytime soon, your best bet is to go with the Focus Armor instead. I recommend getting the black Warrant Armor piece before transitioning to the Klotek's Shroud. Klotek's Shroud is really exceptional because not only gives you 40% focus, it makes your stealth last for 2 turns, which significantly increases your Vindicare's survivability. This is another issue with the Vindicare. All his viable gear is locked behind tier 3, which means it takes a massive amount of requisition to get him going. All of this leads me to believe that he is not intended to be an early game assassin like the Caldus. You want to recruit him after you have already unlocked tier 3 for another assassin. And because he unlocks his instant kill ability Deadshot at level 2, he can provide value to a mission even when he is recruited pretty late in the game. Besides, you don't want to be using a 15 turn cooldown ability on cultists and preachers anyway. Couple of tips about using him in battle: make sure to reset his movement before engaging a patrol. His reposition ability, the one that awards him bonus AP on movement, can trigger while he's out of combat. So if you run into an enemy and he has already triggered reposition, you will start combat without it. So just end the turn before engaging the enemy and don't start the engagement using him. Also, these eyeballs on the summoning balloon spawn missions, destroying them triggers Instrument of Justice, and so they reduce the cooldown of your abilities. And the summoner dude in the middle of these things counts as an organic target, meaning you can use Deadshot to delete them and win the mission without even breaking a sweat. It is so much fun to do. All in all, the Vindicare is a very powerful assassin, but it takes a lot of investment to get him going. There's also the issue of his sniper rifle being the weakest part of his kit and seems to be designed solely for using the abilities Deadshot and Crippling Shot from extreme ranges. And that sucks the most about him, because he's supposed to be the most badass sniper in 40k. Instead, he is forced to fight majority of his battles with his pistol in close quarters, where he is vulnerable to melee attacks. That's my guide for the Vindicare. Join me next time for the wonderfully OP Caldus Assassin. Until then, peace!